In this video, we're going to look at using your graphing calculator to check your graphs after you've already graphed them. The way that you're going to do this is right now I have my calculator on, it's just on the main screen. I'm going to go into my F1 button, which is y equals up in the left. And now you can see I've got, going down the left side, y1, y2, y3. You can put equations in every single one of these. I usually just graph one at a time. But before I do that, I notice that I do have a plot 1 is highlighted up here. So if you have that also, we need to fix that before we can graph because we'll get an error otherwise. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to use my up arrow, and now I have moved my cursor to where it's flashing over that plot 1, and I'm going to hit enter to turn it off. When I go back down into my equations, you'll see that none of my plots are highlighted, and now I'm ready to graph. Those plots are used when you're dealing with statistics, and we're not doing that, so that's why they have to be turned off. Now I'm going to enter an equation into my y1, and I'm going to enter the equation x minus 3. My x is my variable button, which is right here to the right of my green alpha button. So when I push that, I get an x, and then I want minus 3. So x minus 3 is the equation that I'm going to graph, and now I'm going to hit graph, which is to the far right, top row, and I get a line. Now, if your window does not look like my window, and what I mean by that are the dimensions, I'm in a standard 10 by 10 window. So if your window does not look like this, I want you to click zoom and 6 to where it says standard. That's going to, and then hit enter. That's going to adjust your window so that it is standard 10 by 10 window. And you should just get in the habit of doing that every time before you start graphing. If you happen to zoom in or zoom out, then it adjusts your window settings. So zoom 6 gets you back to the standard window. One other thing that I want to point out to you while we're still on this equation is in blue above my graph, it says table. If I do second and table, I get a table of values. Now this happens to be an equation that we graphed by hand in one of the pen casts. So I already had some ordered pairs that I generated, but here the calculator generates a lot of ordered pairs, actually infinite. I can scroll through and find as many ordered pairs as I want. So this is a good way to check your work too, because if your graph does not match the graph in the graphing calculator, you can flip to the table and see which one of your ordered pairs was off. I see all three of the ones that I picked. I had 0, -3, which is right here. I also had 1, -2, and I had -2, -5. So on my screen I can actually see all three parts. I can see the equation I entered, I can see my table, and I can see the graph. If you want to flip back and forth between these, the y equals gets you back to your equations, the graph gives you the graph, and then the second table gives you a table. Okay, let's graph another one. So I'm going to go back to my y equals. I'm going to go ahead and clear out this equation. I'm going to clear all of my history. And now I want to graph the equation y equals 1/2 x plus 1. So I'm going to enter 1/2 as a fraction, and notice I do use parentheses around my fraction, x plus 1. This is another one that we graphed in the pen cast by hand. Now I'm going to hit graph. Hopefully this matches the one that you did in the pen cast, or that you saw in the pen cast. Again, I can check my ordered pairs. It does look like the one that I graphed, but if I flip to the table, I'm going to double check my ordered pairs. Now I generated 0, 1, 2, 2, and -4, -1. So if you graph this along with me, you may have 3 different ordered pairs, and you should be able to see your ordered pairs on this screen as well. Now, the last one that we graphed in our pen cast, and I'm going to go ahead and clear this one out and clear my history. was x plus 2y equals 8. And notice I cannot enter my equation that way. My equation has to be entered as y equals. So if you recall, or if you did watch the Pencast, we did solve this particular equation for y. And when we did that, I got a 4 minus half x, which means the same thing as x plus 2y equals 8. And now I can hit graph. That appears to match the equation that I got. I'm just going to double check my ordered pairs. I got 0, 4. I had 1, 3.5. And I had negative 2, 5. So there is my table. Here is my graph, and the y equals gets me back to my equation. So you can always check your graphs after you've completed them by hand. Put them in your graphing calculator and see if you did them correctly. And if not, check that table and see where you went wrong with your ordered pairs.